Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Wellness Matters. I am your host, Heather Crocchio, and I am going to do a solo podcast on ways to strengthen your intuition. I have to admit that I actually recorded this yesterday, but never turned on the microphone. So when I figured this out this morning, I had to really dig deep and say, do I really want to do another one or not? And I jumped on a phone call with a group of women that I have befriended through kind of like a different membership program. And they were all like, yeah, just go ahead and do it. Have fun with it. And so the more I was simplifying it instead of complicating it, the more I was getting amped up to really record the podcast again. It's something that I definitely realized that I do quite frequently is I can complicate things and it doesn't need to go there. And when I kind of strip away some of the stress and the complications and just have fun with things, holy cow, does it go so much better. Um, but I also just wanted to quickly say I had such a great call with there's five of us, there's five women that we actually meet every Saturday via Zoom. And we've been doing it now for a couple of, well, close to 6 months now, probably. And we actually, I haven't met any of them in person, but I have got to tell you, I feel so close and comfortable with them because of the way that we found each other. So don't disregard online courses or trying new courses or just events. Go to them. If you are feeling just like the tiniest bit of, yeah, that does sound a little bit exciting, follow that excitement and go because you have no idea who you might meet and become lifelong friends with. And when you're choosing to take a course, you're going to be pulled in with a bunch of people that are like minded with you. So you already know you have a lot of similarities and it's easier for the conversation to flow. So, yeah, if you're feeling even the tiniest bit of like an inkling that maybe I should try this online course, maybe I should go to this event, maybe I should put myself out there a little bit, I say follow that and see what comes out of that. You will be very surprised. Just have fun with it. Don't make it complicated, like I just said, because I can tend to overthink things and I have to ground myself and go back into my body, which is a daily practice for me because I happen to be more in the headspace at times. So know that if that's you, you're not alone. And there's ways that you can just start to kind of ground yourself. I'm learning new somatic ways of doing that and remembering that I'm actually in a body and not just a floating head. So I actually plan on having a couple different somatic practitioners coming on soon. So if this is something that you're interested in, hopefully you can check out those future videos. But today, for the podcast, I wanted to talk more on intuition because last week I talked about following the signs. And I wanted to kind of piggyback off of that podcast because I feel like, yeah, it's great. We can follow the signs, but what do I do with it? How do I strengthen that muscle? And so I came up with some fun practices that you can kind of start to sprinkle into your day to try and strengthen the intuitive muscle, like I said. Some people will call it intuition. Some people even call it being psychic. I really don't think that there's much of a difference, but what I do personally believe is that we all actually have the ability to be intuitive. It's just we are living in a society and a time where it's not taught or revered like it once was, say, thousands of years ago. I say this quite frequently on here. We know our five senses: the seeing, the touch, the feel, the taste. We don't talk about the sixth sense, which is developing the idea or developing the sense of being more in the unseen world or sensing the unseen world and following the intuitive hits that you're getting or um, seeing where those signs are leading you and all of that. So I feel like we it's just like kind of like a balancing act where You want to be more at this level of balance on a daily basis. So, our society talks a lot about the physical, like I just said. So, things that we can see and things that we can touch. And that's what we are taught. We're really in the headspace. But if you can start to strengthen the ability to understand and recognize the unseen, I feel like the pendulum can, or I guess the scale would tip back more to an even plane, if that makes sense. I feel like a lot of us are just totally into the physical and doing and working and not slowing down and being more present and aware to bring those scales into a balanced plane. So, one of the ways that we are receiving our intuitive hits is just like messaging. I call it downloading, but you're receiving messages all day, every single day. You just don't realize it. And I think what made me understand this concept the most was understanding that we have two different kinds of thoughts that are plaguing us all throughout the day. So we have the pattern thoughts that we constantly are circling. We actually think a lot of the same stuff that we did the day before and the day before that and the day before that. And then there is like the channeled thought that comes in. We tend to not hear it as loudly and we disregard it because it's just a tiny little nugget that comes in and then you're back into your pattern thoughts again. So I'm going to give you an example of this so you can start to become more aware of what's going on inside of your head. So you could be like me and start thinking about what am I going to cook for dinner for me and my family, or what are we going to have for dinner for me and my family by noon. So the thoughts already, plaguing my mind. Okay, what are we going to do for dinner? Where does Avery have to go? Where does Cameron have to go? How are we going to get them there? All of these logistics that are my pattern thoughts that I go through on a daily basis. And then all of a sudden, I might get a thought of somebody I went to high school with. We'll call her Susie. All of a sudden, boom, a thought comes in and it's Susie. And I'm like, where did that come from? If I stop and really like think about what my thoughts are. And what's wild is once you start to become more aware of that channeled thought, you're going to start to see it in your physical realm. So I might go on to social media and I see Susie on social media post something for the first time in like 3 years. Or maybe she's calling me for the first time, since high school or whatever. Maybe she sends me an email. She's got a question to ask me and she wanted to send me an email, whatever. That is the psychic or intuitive message that was coming through that I actually stopped and became more aware of and then saw it play out in my physical world. So there are these two thoughts. Like I said, there's the thoughts that come in that are the patterns. They're basically they're linear. One thought plays after another, after another, after another. But a download kind of comes in. It's nonlinear. It came out of nowhere. And if you can start to really become more mindful and aware of what your thoughts are, number one, you can start like incorporating new mantras and start flipping stories. Like I say, like if you are in a downward spiral and you're really hating on yourself, whoa, pause it and start flipping that to the exact opposite and change that story, number one. So those might be your pattern thoughts you're trying to change. But if you really want to start figuring out what ones are the intuitive hits, you need to be in that headspace too and think, okay, I just had this thought and it came out of nowhere. That is more of the intuitive hit. So start paying attention to your thoughts on the regular, and you will start to strengthen your intuition that way. But not only that, I feel like you're taking back some of your power too. We give out our power all the time, every single day, out to society. We got to get here. We got to do this. We got to do it. We're checking out all the things, right? And when you're not centering yourself and checking in with yourself and being aware of your thoughts and letting those downloads come in, there goes your power. So again, we want to kind of strengthen the intuitive part of your brain. And so therefore you are on this more even playing field than just everything's the physical, right? So stop, become aware, see the thoughts that you're having, recognize the ones that are on loop and that are not serving you anymore. Maybe we can change that. But aside from that, let's start being, more, let's be on the hunt for the things that are dropping in that we didn't even know, where did it come from, right? Because that happens to me all the time. I'll get an idea. I'm like, where did that come from? That was a drop in or an intuitive hit or a download, like I like to say. So definitely become more aware. On my call today with the women, my friend Amber gave the most beautiful suggestion and example of being more aware and just like creating almost ceremony in your daily life in the mundane. I've done a podcast on this, but I really liked her example. You could sit down and have a candy bar on the couch while you're watching something and literally eat the whole thing and not even know where it went. How did I just ingest that so quickly? You're not being aware. Or you can sit down and really savor the candy that you're now ingesting, right? Oh my gosh, I love the way that it makes my whole insides feel warm when I'm eating it, and it smells so delicious. And really starting to become in the moment and aware of the fact that you are having this delicious treat, and rather than just be mindlessly eating it and not even know where it went. So again, it's just the process of slowing down and becoming more aware and seeing things in a different way. And once you do that, it actually becomes easier and easier and easier to do. So, anyways, on to the fun part of this podcast. I have written down like 5 or 6 different ways that you can try to sprinkle in practicing your intuitive muscle. Okay. Don't make this, I'm like such a great student now where I'm like, oh my gosh, I got homework. I got to do it. I got to get it out of the way. Oh my gosh. And then it becomes like, I'm in my headspace again and I'm too stressed out about it. Do not let this be one of those things. It's supposed to be fun. And do not expect yourself to have your intuition be off the charts amazing right off the bat either, because you have literally spent, if you're anything like me, you spent your entire life ignoring it, right? I'm too much doing all the things. I am not focused on these downloads that I'm getting and the intuitive hits. So when you're doing these practices, you can set some parameters for it, but you don't have to become obsessive and become like worried and, oh my God, I didn't get my homework in today. It should be fun. So one of the things that I now understand about myself is if I really want to do a daily practice, like a sacred practice, I have to put it in my planner and know that this specific time is when I'm going to carve that time out and I'm going to do it. So if you're somebody like that and you want to put that in there, you can. But if you don't get to it, don't, punish yourself because you didn't do your daily practice that day. But also don't put it on the back burner either. You get what I'm saying? So anyways, here is some of the practices that I wrote down. First, it's the one that everybody always talks about. Try to get quiet every single day. Even if it's just a few minutes a day, try to drop in and be centered with yourself. I don't want to get into why I feel like a lot of people don't do that. Like they worry about what their thoughts are going to be and they don't want to sit with themselves, but it's actually when you actually start doing it, it becomes easier and easier, and your racing thoughts start to slow down the more you're doing this practice. I can't tell you how therapeutic it can be. And knowing that I have carved out this time for just me to be with me is actually a very loving thing I can do for myself. Because realistically, we are here to love ourselves and figure out how to do that. And it takes us a long time to get there. And I'm still, obviously there's things about me that I need to still work on all the time. But I am always trying to give myself compassion and know that I am a work in progress, just like everybody else. I don't want all the answers right now. What am I going to do the rest of my life? So give yourself compassion. Sit quietly, let those racing thoughts kind of float away on a cloud, and be present with you and meditate a little bit. So being quiet is going to start to strengthen your intuition. You are going to get like those downloads because you are literally sitting and listening. So it's a fun practice if you have something that you want to like get out of it. You can ask a question in the beginning of your meditation, like, why do I do blah blah blah? Eventually that answer will come through. Or you could do it through journal writing, which I love to do as well. So another fun practice that you could do is, what else did I put? Oh, you can program your inner clock. I love this. I was doing this before I even really knew it was like a way to strengthen your intuition. Sometimes I go to bed at night and I'll say, self, I need to get up by 7 a.m. Please allow me to get up. And I won't set an alarm. I always have my husband as a backup, but it's crazy how once you set that intention in your mind, that the rest of your body flows and it all works together. That just shows that connection of the mind and body. And I do it all the time now. I've done it for years. And just by doing that, you will start to strengthen it and start to trust yourself in your intuition even more. So this is a crazy one. The left side of your body is connected to the right side of your brain. And the right side of the brain is governing your intuition. So if you want to strengthen that part of the brain, you got to do more things on the left side of your body. If you're somebody who likes to listen to the phone up to your ear, you can put it up to your left ear instead of your right ear. I know that I do everything on the right because I'm more dominant. But you can also, when you're using your computer and you have a mouse, you can use the mouse with the left hand. You could brush your teeth with the left hand. You can do drawing and writing with your left hand. All of those things are going to start to strengthen the right side of the brain. So have fun with that. If you do any drawings with your left hand and you're not left-handed, please send them to me because I really want to see them because they're probably going to be really funny. Another one is, if you have construction paper, this is a really fun one. I have construction paper because I have a preschool. So if you don't, maybe you've got little kids and they've got construction paper, but take a couple different colored pieces of paper, like say 4, and you shuffle them up and place them in front of you. And with your eyes closed, you obviously don't want to know where the paper has landed. Put your hand over top of the pieces of paper and ask yourself, what color do I want to land on? Okay, so say yellow is the color you want to land on. You're going to intuitively ask yourself, what does yellow feel like? And you're going to put your hand over top of the 4 pieces of paper and try to stop your hand when you get that hit of, this is the yellow piece of paper. And again, it's going to be trial and error. It's going to take time to strengthen this muscle, but you might actually get like a like vocab of what your intuitive side is. So like if you're somebody who can really sense colors, maybe when you ask yourself to stop on the yellow, what does yellow really feel like in your body? How do you feel warm and sunny like the sun, and that's how you knew when to stop? Each person uses and gets downloads and has like their intuitive toolbox that might be a little bit different from the other person. So I can't say exactly what your body's going to feel like, but start to pay attention and read yourself on how does that make you feel, right? And then you'll know when to stop. So keep doing that exercise. You could do it every single day for 30 days and see where you were from the first day all the way to the last day. I can almost guarantee you're going to see a difference in your intuitive muscle. You're going to start to feel more confident with yourself and also have like I said, like a toolbox or a vocabulary for what you feel when you're doing these exercises. You can do that same thing with like playing cards or oracle cards. I was working with an intuitive a long time ago, and she had me with one of my oracle card decks. She had me just fan them out pick a card and just like hold it up to my heart and close my eyes. And in my third eye space, start to, because you might not have like clairvoyance, which is fine. So if you don't see anything, but is there something that like a word that pops out to you or a color or something that is on that card that you might be picking up? And don't discard anything that comes through, because you'd be surprised. Like maybe you felt like, oh my gosh, why do I see a stampede of elephants or something like that? When you flip the card over, you might actually have an elephant on the card, or um, maybe some type of large animal or something like that. And so that's what your intuitive self was trying to tell you. So you can obviously work with the oracle cards. Like I said, you can work with a regular card deck if you don't even want to invest in oracle cards, but I do recommend you doing. But even with like a regular card deck, like say you take out 3 or 4 cards out of the card deck and you know what those 3 or 4 cards are, and you shuffle them up, and you can just place them out like you were the paper and say, I need to find the 2 of hearts, whatever, and wait and see. For me, when I work on cards, I get like a tingle in my middle finger, and I know wherever that's placed over top of, that's the card that I want. But that does not mean that that's going to be the same for you. You might have like a drop in your stomach where like you kind of like, or maybe not like a drop, but like butterflies all of a sudden, or maybe you get a noise in your ear when you're over a certain card. It's going to be different for everybody, and you just have to be the detective for your own self. And at first, it might be frustrating and be like, "Oh, I'm just not good at this. I don't want to do it." I encourage you to keep going, keep trying. Again, I didn't know what my hit was until I was doing tarot and oracle cards every day. I still do. I do them every single day when it's just part of my daily routine. I like to know what my message of the day is going to be. But you can ask questions and just start playing around with it, and you'll be surprised. You're going to say to yourself a billion times over, you can't make this shit up. I've said that so many times. I'll text message different people. I'm like, oh my God, you will not believe what it just came through. And the more you're doing it, the more it's going to happen, the more you're going to believe, the more you're going to trust, and the more you're going to have confidence in it. And so the more you're going to do it. It's just like this amazing, beautiful cycle that keeps going and going and going. It's the gift that never stops giving. Another thing you can do, like if your phone's ringing, before you answer it, intuitively pause for a second and say, who is this? Who is it that's trying to contact me right now? And try to get in on that wavelength and figure out what's going on. And maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, who knows, but keep going, keep trying. These are just fun things that you could be doing to strengthen your intuition. My last one is kind of fun too. You can write on 2 different pieces of paper the word yes, and you can write the word no. And you can fold it up or just flip them over depending on what you're using. You don't want to see the word on the other side. But anyway, intuitively ask questions like, should I have spaghetti tonight for dinner? And just place your hand over the yes and the no. And when you feel some kind of physical or, yeah, just something register on you, then stop and pick up that card and answer your own question that way. Should I trust so and so? I mean, maybe not go that deep into the question, but if you want to, go ahead. I say the more questions, the better. So, this is my follow up to following the signs. I highly, highly recommend strengthening your intuitive muscle, because the more that you do, the more power you're giving back to yourself. We hemorrhage our power all day, every day. We have since we were kids. Start claiming it back, start taking it back, being more aware, being more present. Think of, don't think, actually be present with the thoughts that are going on inside of your head. Change any old patterns that you can. Flip the script. And also try to be more present to what's being downloaded. What messages are you getting intuitively? And then what's really wild is when you start acting on those things, holy cow, the world starts to become your oyster. Everything just leads to one more thing, to another thing, to another thing, and a snowball effect is happening. And you're like, how did I live without this my entire life? I'm telling you, I went through this entire awakening. This whole thing that I'm talking about right now, been there with all the, I've been there with the, no, that's not true, the skepticism and all the things, to how did I live without all this magical goodness in my life? So if you do start doing these practices, just sprinkling them into your day, let me know. Send me an email, give me a picture, do something so I know that you're really coming online. Because I think that that's the coolest part, is when you get to go through these fun things and then you have somebody to be excited for you. So, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.